The first light of dawn had barely touched the streets of East Los Angeles when the silence shattered. Maria Lopez stirred at the sound of heavy footsteps outside her apartment, her body tensing before her mind fully registered the danger. Then came the knock, sharp, urgent, impossible to ignore. Her breath caught in her throat. She knew that knock. Everyone in her neighborhood feared it. Before she could move, the door burst open with a splintering crack. Men in tactical gear flooded in, their voices barking commands in clipped English. "Ice! Hands up! Don't move!" Luis, her 10-year-old, bolted upright in bed beside her, his dark eyes wide with confusion and fear. "Mama! ¿Qué pasa?" Maria's arms instinctively wrapped around him, pulling him close as if her body alone could shield him from what was coming. One of the agents stepped forward, his face unreadable behind mirrored sunglasses. "Maria Lopez? You're under arrest for unlawful presence in the United States." Her stomach dropped. She had lived in LA for 15 years, worked 2 jobs, paid taxes, raised Luis in this cramped but warm apartment. She had hoped, foolishly, that she was invisible, that they wouldn't come for her. "Por favor," she begged, her voice trembling. "Mi hijo. He's just a child. Who will take care of him?" The agent didn't answer, just motioned for her to stand. Outside, the neighborhood was in chaos. Red and blue lights pulsed against the apartment buildings. Down the street, a father was being wrestled to the ground beside his truck, while his teenage daughter screamed, "Stop! He didn't do anything!" A block away, a woman in a nightgown stood frozen on the sidewalk, clutching her baby as agents rifled through her car. Maria's wrists burned as the cuffs clicked tight. Luis sobbed, clinging to her leg. "No se lleven a mi mamá." One of the agents pried him away, his grip firm but not cruel. "Social services will come for him," he said flatly. The last thing Maria saw before the van doors closed was Luis's face, streaked with tears, his small hands reaching for her as a neighbor rushed forward to pull him back. By mid-morning, the videos were everywhere. Phones had captured it all, the arrests, the crying children, the agents shoving people into vans. The city was waking, up to a nightmare, and the anger was just beginning to boil. The sun burned high over downtown Los Angeles by noon, but the heat of the day was nothing compared to the fury spreading through the streets. Word of the raids had exploded across social media, and now crowds were gathering, outside the ICE detention center in front of City Hall, along the sidewalks where families had been torn apart just hours earlier. Maria's neighbor, Rosa, had been the first to act. She'd taken Luis in, then grabbed a marker and a piece of cardboard, scrawling, "Stop separating families," in thick, angry letters. By the time she reached the ICE facility, 50 others had already joined her, their signs held high, voices raw with outrage. "Los queremos libres," they chanted. "Let our people go." News vans swarmed the scene, cameras panning over the growing crowd. A young woman with a megaphone climbed onto the hood of a parked car, her voice cutting through the noise. "They took my Tio this morning," she shouted. "He's lived here 20 years. He's no criminal." The crowd roared in response. Then the police arrived, helmets on, batons out. The chanting grew louder, angrier. Someone threw a water bottle. An officer shoved a protester back. That was all it took. The clash erupted in seconds. Protesters locked arms, screaming as officers pushed forward. A canister of tear gas arced through the air, and suddenly the street was a blur of smoke and chaos. By nightfall, the city was on edge. The mayor gave a tense press conference urging calm, but no one was listening. In living rooms and church, basements, people whispered about what came next, because this wasn't over. It was only beginning. The governor's emergency press conference aired at 7 p.m. on every major network, his face grim under the harsh studio lights. "To ensure public safety and restore order," he announced, "I am authorizing the deployment of the California National Guard." The reaction was instant. In living rooms across the city, families gasped. At community centers, activists cursed. The Guard wasn't being sent to stop the raids, they were being sent to police the protests. Mia Rivera, a 22-year-old community organizer, watched the broadcast from a crowded apartment in Boyle Heights, her fists clenched. She'd spent the day coordinating legal aid for detained families, but now the game had changed. "They're militarizing our streets," she muttered. Around her, others nodded, faces tight with fear. By midnight, olive green trucks rumbled through. Downtown, soldiers in fatigues taking positions outside government buildings. Helicopters thudded overhead, spotlights cutting through the darkness like blades. But LA wasn't backing down. Even as the guard rolled in, makeshift sanctuaries sprang up in churches and school gyms, places where undocumented families could hide, eat, sleep. Volunteers passed out water and gas masks near protest lines. Mia, live streaming to her thousands of followers, held up a sign painted in bold red letters. "They deploy troops. We deploy solidarity." The governor had drawn a line in the sand. The people of LA were ready to cross it. The morning air smelled of smoke and burnt rubber as protesters regrouped at MacArthur Park. Mia stood on the bed of a pickup truck, her voice hoarse from shouting all night. "They want us to be afraid," she barked into the megaphone, "but we outnumber them." The crowd roared back, waving signs that read, "No human is illegal" and "Deport hate, not families." Across the police barricades, a different crowd had gathered, men in tactical vests waving "Deport them all" banners. The tension crackled like live wire. When a counter-protester lunged at an elderly woman handing out water bottles, the explosion of violence was instantaneous. Cell phone footage captured the moment everything escalated. National Guard troops advancing with riot shields, a teenager hurling a traffic cone, the sickening crunch of batons on flesh. The viral clip of a soldier shoving 68-year-old Abuela Carmen to the pavement spread faster than the tear gas rolling through downtown. In Sacramento, politicians scrambled. The lieutenant governor called the raids state-sanctioned terror, while talk radio hosts praised the law and order response. On cable news, split screens showed burning dumpsters in one panel and crying, children in detention centers in another. Mia wiped pepper spray from her eyes behind the relative safety of a makeshift medic tent. Blood trickled from a cut above her eyebrow, but her hands didn't shake as she typed out a new post. "They brought soldiers to a neighborhood fight. Bad move." Across the city, car horns blared in solidarity, the people's answer to sirens. The streets had become a war zone, but the battle lines kept shifting. With every arrest, 10 more protesters appeared. With every viral video, donations to bail, funds skyrocketed. The system had thrown its worst at them. And still, LA rose. The streets pulsed with energy as thousands converged on City Hall, a human river fed by every neighborhood in Los Angeles. Mia marched at the front, her face still, bandaged from the previous night, gripping a bullhorn with white-knuckled determination. The crowd behind her stretched for blocks, students linking arms with grandmothers, construction workers still in their high-vis vests, teachers carrying signs in a dozen languages. Above them, National Guard helicopters circled like vultures, their rotors drowning out the chants until the people simply shouted louder. At the barricades, the wall of riot police and soldiers tensed. Mia could see the hesitation in their postures, the way some avoided meeting protesters' eyes. She climbed onto a parked news van, the metal denting under her boots. "Look at them!" she shouted, pointing at the guardsmen. "They're supposed to protect us. But today, they're the ones standing between justice and families who just want to be free." The crowd roared, a sound so massive it seemed to shake the ground. Inside City Hall, emergency meetings were underway. The mayor's phone buzzed incessantly. Calls from the governor, from business leaders, from panicked advisors. The numbers were undeniable. The city was on the brink. Then a crackle of radios, a murmur through the police lines. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, the barricades began to part. Mia held her breath. A high-ranking officer stepped forward, his voice strained but clear. "Stand down. Stand down." For one suspended moment, no one moved. Then, like a dam breaking, the crowd surged forward, not in violence, but in pure, disbelieving triumph. Somewhere in the chaos, Mia caught sight of a familiar face, Maria Lopez, freed, on bail, tears streaming as she clutched Luis to her chest. The fight wasn't over. But today, LA had won.